Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be checking out a full run of AQ Map 7, and for the section number 1 I'm dealing with Footloose. So it is quite an annoying node, especially when it's Black Panther combined with an armor up node. Now this won't be a perfectly smooth run, but I suppose quite a few of you will like to see me get wrecked a bit as well. But anyways, so first of all, why I selected this team. So I have Nick Fury, Captain Marvel movie, and Captain America Infinity War. It kind of works out more or less perfectly in the synergies with what I have to do, because Captain America Infinity War gets armor break ability with a Cosmic Champion, which is perfect for this Black Panther because I can parry him normally provided he has only one armor break on him. Even if I do happen to slip off, because we have a skill champion, I can also shrug off debuffs so long as I have kinetic charges on me. And that also will help me with a freezer burn path in section 2, because Cap can safely do that freezer burn path relying on his heavy attacks, and if and when we do get those incinerate debuffs, our Cap's shrug of ability with skill champions will just make sure that we do not actually get hurt by those incinerate debuffs. So first fight went fairly fine, no problems there. I think we finished on like 100%, so that's about as well as we can do. Also, it's worth mentioning that this is Science Week. That means Science champions like Captain America Infinity War get plus 40% attack, and skill champions get plus 20% attack. So we definitely have selected some team that works well together and actually benefits from this week's attack increase. And now for second fight against Red Skull, I'm just going to use Cap Marvel. Not because I had to, Cap would have dealt with this dude perfectly fine. I'm simply using Cap Marvel just because I wanted to get her kinetic charges up in like an easy warm-up fight, and then I don't have to worry about building the kinetic charges up for next fight from like 0. So also, it shouldn't be too bad with Captain Marvel just because we are able to armor break on our regular hits, and once I enter binary, I should be able to get rid of his armor break fairly easily, of his armor buffs, and that means my crit rate should go up there as well. As we can see here, 1 level 2, and that's without suicides, and he's on like 30 something percent. Now I will take his special 2 in the block, I believe, yes, but for part of it, at least, we still had indestructibility on, so we didn't take like a full blocking damage, but we still finished the fight on 90%, so that went relatively well. It wasn't perfect, but it's good enough. Now my next fight is Wolverine, and that is also with Footloose node, so there's nothing too difficult there. We are going to use Nick Fury for this fight, because even with class disadvantage, those bleeds will mitigate his healing fairly well, and that is what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna kind of let him kill me or anything like that. I'm just gonna spam my heavy attacks and get up as many inner bleeds as I possibly can, because those deal a decent amount of damage, and also that way I'm not gonna be giving him too much power to spam his special attacks, and that in exchange is kind of like let me fight more freely, because Footloose can be quite annoying with that unstoppable and with that evade and all that stuff. But yeah, so we're just gonna heavy him down. Also, because I don't really have too many fights later on I can use Nick Fury, because in section 3 I do buffed up path, which I can't do with Nick Fury. In section 2 I'm doing freezer burn, where I can use Nick Fury, and I haven't passed for like a fight, maybe 2 fights maximum, just because of his double life and shrug of abilities when he has tactical charges up. But yeah, so for most part I can freely use him only here in section 1. And as we can see here, minute in the fight, Wolverine is nearly down. He shoots off a special attack, so we need to wait out that final kind of evade and unstoppable. But he's ticking down steadily from here on out, so last heavy attack and he goes down, finished on 92%, so it's not too bad once again. And yeah, overall about AQ, I think they have done a fairly good job in Map 7, because I am kind of interested myself to change up my teams depending on what gets attack add boosts, who gets attack penalties, and so on. So I kind of like, yeah, do enjoy bringing in different teams for different days or different weeks. But now we're going to be dealing with that Hulkbuster. I could have used Nick Fury in this fight as well. I probably should have, just to kind of give him a bit more playtime, but we're just going to deal with this guy using Captain America Infinity War, because for him, it's a fairly easy matchup. Also, when Footloose is active, we can just attack as normal if we choose to, because we don't really have to worry about that unstoppable, just about evade. But later on I realized that Cap finishes his heavy attack before parry stun duration expires. So I kind of blanked on it because it was a bit late in the evening when I was doing this fight. But yeah, I could just heavy him as normal even with Footloose active. So 17 hits, massive level 2, finish off the fight early, and again Cap walks away pretty much without a scratch. Now I do have 1 energy left before I go to bed, and there's this bishop. Now this bishop technically isn't my fight. He has oscillate and that brawler node and strike back. Now strike back is going to be an interesting one because I'm going to completely forget about that one. So I figured I'm just going to bring in Cap. It shouldn't be too bad. Because Cap obviously has those perfect parries, which is ideal. He also has that attack increase, and I should be able to deal with this guy fairly quickly. Ideally, I do want to push him to level 2 instead of level 1, but that will not happen in this fight because of Oscillate node. He is very happy to trigger his special one. And now with that armor phase in Oscillate, he's going to be like super passive, but nonetheless, he still tries to throw a punch at us, so we can parry that. But I don't mind if him being passive. At least I can wait out his level 1. And now here we go for a level 2, but it doesn't finish him. It didn't crit. And now I'm kind of like in tough water because he's at level 3. Luckily, we did manage to finish him off before he triggered his level 3. So I definitely made a mistake here, and it could have cost me a lot. But I just kind of got lucky that we managed to finish him off quick enough. And now I'm pretty much off to bed. I'm just checking if I can get to any of these like mini fights before I switch off, but nope. And then as soon as I wake up, obviously I see that everything that has been cleared, and I just carry on to my path in section 2. My path in section 2 is the first one on the left side. That this week it's Freezer Burn, some weeks it's just Incinerate, and then there's something else. I don't even remember what is the third variation. But Freezer Burn, now to deal with Freezer Burn, I have 2 options. I have either Captain Marvel or Captain America Infinity War. But we're going to use Captain America Infinity War just because I kind of want to preserve Captain Marvel's health for section number 3, where I deal with buffed up path, and she's the only one who can do those fights for me. So now the one thing I do need to kind of keep in mind, and I think I'm going to fail at some point during this fight because it was morning and I had my morning brain on, but yeah, you do want to have exactly at least 2 kinetic charges on you whenever you throw a heavy attack, in case you do get that awful RNG, and if both of your heavy attack hits do trigger that Incinerate, you want to make sure you have enough kinetic charges to shrug off both of them. Aside from that, it's fairly straightforward fight. Don't hit him if you don't have kinetic charges, and you're gonna be fine. So you don't have much else to worry about in here. So he throws his level 2, everything goes according to plan. I have 3 kinetic charges on, perfect. We did trigger Incinerate, so we spent 1 to remove it. Now I should have probably blocked those hits, but nonetheless. So once again, we do trigger Incinerate. Now I'm left without kinetic charges, and I only had 1. Now here is a mistake. I shouldn't have hit him after my special attack because I had no kinetic charges left. I should have just backed off and waited, but since I did attack him, I got Incinerate on myself. I had no kinetic charges, I couldn't shrug it off, so I had to take some damage, so there was a definite mistake in here. But we're still relatively healthy, and as I mentioned, Captain Marvel is meant to take the section 3 fights, so I'm not too worried about this point at this point. So the next fight is Heimdall. Now this Heimdall, it always somehow, some way, for whatever reason, does catch me, because I have been doing this path quite a lot and I hate this Heimdall. Technically, it's not a hard fight, there's nothing overly tricky about him, but there's something about his animations and the fact that this fight normally is kind of like one of the first things I do in the morning. He always gets to me. Somehow he catches me, I miss block or something happens, and he normally lands at least like a combo on me. So I'm trying to be like super careful. trying to pay attention to everything that's happening, that I have enough kinetic charges. As we can see here, we had 2 kinetic charges at the beginning of heavy attack, and both of them triggered Incinerate. So after heavy attack, I was left with none. So that is like the biggest thing I have to look out for in this fight. And the fight's over. So this fight actually went smooth, surprisingly, aside from the fact that we did end up pushing him to level 2, but luckily he didn't drop it on us. Now the last fight I was linked, so I had to wait for that one for a bit, and then as soon as it was unlinked, I'm ready to go and take down this Yondu. Now this Yondu as well, it's not a hard fight, there's nothing too tricky about it. The only important bit is to remember not to go for parry initially, because he starts the fight unblockable, and that is something that also in mornings catches me plenty of times. But now he's unblockable ended, so we can parry him. We build up a couple of kinetic charges, and we're pretty much good to go start this fight. So now at this point, this fight's already pretty much done, because we didn't get caught in the beginning. Aside from that, there's nothing too difficult in this fight. Just need to make sure I have kinetic charges on before I hit him, and that's it. It's a simple fight. It's not difficult to fight Yondu, especially if you know that you can parry him safely from distance. If he dashes in at you, it means he will start his combo with a medium attack, and you can parry his medium attacks. His light attacks are the ones you can't parry. And yeah, that's about it. That's the entire trick about fighting Yondu. And just bait out his level 1s, parry, level 2, done. So it was like 14 hits, so another like super easy fight there for Cap. And I think I'm gonna have a couple more fights here in section 2. Normally, quite often I don't take these fights, or because I don't have to, they're technically not on my path, but and normally I just kind of like miss the opportunity to take them. But this time I noticed that both of the Darkhawk and Howard the Duck are opened, and I figured I might as well kind of carry on and move on to these fights. Why not? So we have Captain Marvel. At this point I had put my suicides on, so it means I'm going to be taking some bleed damage at the beginning of every fight I use Captain Marvel in. But aside from that, obviously there's an upside of hitting harder. So here we're gonna accidentally eat a level 1. Luckily we had Indestructible on, so I didn't take any damage from that, but that was annoying because I lost most of my charges there. So I just let go of my block a bit too early. I always try to dex the last kind of hit of his laser beam, but this time I mistimed it and I let go too early. We didn't get punished too hard, but that means that I need to kind of build my charges up pretty much from scratch, which is super annoying. But against Howard the Duck, I figured it wouldn't be too bad because, well, A, we have class advantage, and B, he starts at 2 bars of power. So if I get to a relatively high amount of charges before he drops that level 2, it will kind of generate quite a lot of binary charges for me, and ideally I will also go into my binary mode from his level 2, meaning I can mitigate some of the blocking damage that I would take. So at this point I want to parry him one more time, but that didn't work out. So we did enter the binary mode with 25 charges. We get our 5 Furies up, and now we immediately start to damage him. As we can see, most of his armors have been broken, so we are doing quite a bit of damage now. His armor breaks are gone, so that helps us. And yeah, at this point I don't want to throw my level 2. I just want to finish him off because I don't want to expend more charges than I have to. But it might have been easier just to drop the level 2, but I just wanted to conserve most of my charges for next fights. And there we go, fairly simple fight, nothing too difficult here. And now I noticed that that was the last link going in Omega Red, so I figured, and this is gonna be the biggest problem because I probably shouldn't have tried to take down this Omega Red, but I did. I guess I got greedy a bit, and I will also fight fairly poorly in this fight. So the tactic I probably should have used was to simply kind of attack with my regular combos, because those inflict armor breaks, those can mitigate the heal, and then I don't have to kind of worry about his level 2, and I can just bait out his level 1s. My armor breaks would mitigate quite a bit of his aggression regen, and I would be dealing a lot of damage now. First mistake was shooting my level 2 before I entered binary, so we were off to a horrible start already. Now we had an entire combo where we didn't armor break him. Then we ate some hits, but those weren't the biggest problem just because we still had Indestructible on. But still, nearly a minute in the fight and we have done no damage. So that definitely doesn't bode well for me. And now I figured I need to kind of push on, but none of my level 2 hits crit. Now I'm worried about regaining my charges. He's pushed into level 2, so I can't get close to him. So my tactic here should be just spam the heavy attacks, but those obviously don't deal as much damage and those can't armor break, but I just wanted to wait out the death field as much as possible. Now I am only at 30% health, 38%. He's regening a bunch and I'm like, yeah, this is a bad fight. I house soloed Omega Red before with my Captain Marvel quite a few times. But this fight I just fought poorly. There's not much else to say. It's definitely my fault. I could have done this fight in time without much problem, but now we can see minute and a half in, he's at 60%. I'm at 27, and it's definitely not going our way. But still, I figured I can just go for a timeout, play carefully, do not kind of like take any extra damage that I don't have to, and just deal as much damage as I possibly can before, well, either I die or I time out. Ideally, the timeout would be better because that could save me a revive and I can just potion up later, because I will have to potion up with my Captain Marvel simply because she's the only champion in my team that can do buffed up path in section 3. So I have 14% of health left for about 50 seconds of this fight remaining. So I definitely do need to be like really careful in whatever I do. And at the same time, I can't let him regen because that would just be counterproductive. And yeah, so I am doing my best to kind of manage the death spores. And then I realized this is probably what I should have simply done from the start. I should not have used my level 2. I should have just added in some heavy attacks, some full combos to kind of keep him at the bay. And also my heavy attack is only one hit and it throws him away decent distance. So that helps me to get the death spores down. And yeah, but at this point he also goes on unblockable. So there's another thing to worry about. Luckily, there's only like few seconds left on the clock. And I still had 9% health left. So we did survive it. We did time it out. But obviously we didn't manage to take Omega down, and we pretty much lost all health on Captain Marvel, which was annoying. Definitely at this point I was already not happy with myself. But then at the same time I realized, because, well, I don't really have any use for Nick Fury, and now I do realize that Nick Fury is a horrible matchup against Omega Red, but I just figured I'll try and push as much damage as I can through him, and just basically, yeah, try and get the last 30% down before I die, because I do have like my double health pool on Nick, and he hits fairly hard, especially once his Fury is active. So my plan here is just go in, try and stay aggressive, don't let aggression regen build up, drop my special attacks. Now we're about to die, obviously, because he is bleeding, so death field is active, so any death spores he gets on me already immediately do damage. But nonetheless, we have taken him down to 15%, so it wasn't completely unfruitful effort, and we are dealing even more damage right now. So now my hope was kind of, I want to get to level 2, drop the level 2 and hopefully kill him. But when we look at the death spore damage, I just dropped down because I let too many of them build on me. So he was left on like 1% health. If I had managed to finish off my level 2 animation, it obviously would be fight over, but anyways, we got close enough, and as I said, I didn't need Nick Fury for any other of my fights later on, and so one heavy attack from Captain America finishes this guy off. So finally, we got down that Omega Red. Now I lost footage from my Massacre fight, but I did have to put in a couple of potions in my Captain Marvel, obviously just to heal her up, and other than that the fight was fairly simple. There's nothing too difficult about it. You do have to be careful with Captain Marvel though, not to enter your binary while you have a debuff on you though, because Massacre has a chance to negate that, because you gain charges when he hits you, and if that is the method you would enter binary, you basically have 50% chance to fail that. So it is a bit tricky against Massacre. But now this fight against Daredevil, he basically has Rage on and buffed up. So obviously, because we are hitting fairly hard, we triggered that Rage immediately. So he's spending most of the fight in unblockable. And obviously our damage is capped as well. So it is kind of annoying, but still, at the end of the day, it's just Daredevil Netflix, and it isn't a tricky opponent to deal with. It just takes a bit longer. And I couldn't refresh my binary charges with heavy attacks just because he's unblockable. I can't parry him. And now I have to deal with that Iron Fist, and since it's Mystic, once again, I do want to start each and every fight with as many binary charges as I possibly can, because every time I would get any of my charges by blocking a Mystic attack, I will take a damage. That is one of kind of the bigger weaknesses of Captain Marvel. Against Mystic champions, you do tend to take a lot of energy damage building up your binary charges. So you want to start as close to 25 as possible. In my case, I only started 14. So my plan for this fight was a bit different. I wanted to get my level 3, because that will get me 10 binary charges and I don't have to take recoil damage. And then if I block just a single hit, I would enter my binary and I would get indestructible on, and I could finish off the fight from there. And so we have gotten to our level 3. This is power reserve, so as soon as we enter our binary, we are able to finish out these fights extremely quick, just because we can basically chain stun our level 2s so long as we have enough charges to remain in binary. We can finish these fights quickly. So I am at this point indestructible. I have plenty of binary charges. Just want to bait out his level 1. I'm gonna go for my own level 2, and that's gonna deal some crazy damage because well, that's what it does. So another heavy attack and the fight is over. Now once again, I'm suffering from low health here just because I spent it all on Omega Red fight, which I should not have done. So I think I ended up using like 4 potions on Captain Marvel, but at least it was like no revives, and yeah, so it's not that bad. And now pretty much the final fight. No, I'm gonna also deal with Gambit later on. So for final fight on my path, I need to deal with Loki, but it's also a fairly straightforward fight. As soon as I get in my binary, I can just drop my level 2, and that can finish the fight off because he's gonna be stunned, and it's power reserve, and she can just close these fights out incredibly fast. And yeah, now we also have Gambit that's still linked, and I figured I might as well just kind of use the last health I have remaining on Cap and try and deal as much damage as I can. So for my next AQ video, I'm definitely going to try and change up the teams a bit, just because I find it interesting, and well, let's face it, I have a roster that kind of lets me experiment a bit. But yeah, so back to the fight. So I do have Suicide Zone with Cap as well, so that is going to take some of my health away. Even if I don't mess up, I only have like X amount of special attacks in me because of recoil. Also, we are only doing half amount of damage than we normally would because of the linked node that these 2 final mini bosses have. Basically, whichever one you clear first, you're gonna be only dealing half the amount of damage you normally would. So we're not hitting as hard as we normally would be. But still, we're making a dent. He's already at 85%. Often these fights do tend to last a while. That's why we have 15-minute timers. And now, unfortunately, my level 2 didn't crit here. But still, it does decent amount of damage, I suppose. Also, because of the way the link node works with this week's global node, which gives us a fury buff every time we trigger dexterity, we do need to be careful because in here those furies are transformed into weaknesses. So once we get to 10 weakness buffs in this fight in particular, Gambit is going to go unblockable, which is also going to be the thing that's going to be my downfall. So as you can see here, he's at 7, 8, weakness 9, so I only have 1 more left in me. And next kind of like dexterity that we trigger will make Gambit unblockable, and that's going to throw me off a bit, and that is how I will lose my Cap in this fight. But once again, it's not a difficult fight, it's just definitely going to be like a user error. So I do want to bait out the level 2 attack from him. Now at this point he's already unblockable, so I do need to be careful. I should have paid a bit more attention and just waited it out. Now here I thought I'm far away from his heavy attack, but apparently I wasn't, so I ate a heavy. I'm already only like 2%, and I got flustered a bit and I got hit. But I still have Captain Marvel with a few HP left, so I might as well bring her in here as well. And that is going to be my final fight for this week's AQ, at least today. And yeah, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. Tell me what kind of champions you would like to see on AQ. I probably will be doing the same setup path for a bit, more than likely. If something changes, obviously I'll let you know. But yeah, guys, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, then that's awesome. Hit all the buttons, hit like, hit sub, hit share buttons, share it with your alliance mates, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon, later.